we are fortunate to be joined by someone who played for Dabo Swinney, who knows him better than any of us possibly could.
Correct.
Tajh Boyd, former Clemson quarterback, joins us now here on Golic and Wingo. Tajh, good morning, man. How you doing, boss?
Good morning. I'll tell you what, that was a great intro song, man. I appreciate that, you know.
Absolutely, man. We roll out the red carpet for our best guests. So, Tajh, I guess I just want to start with this. A lot of people were looking towards your former head coach for a statement, for something to be heard in this time after the death of George Floyd. What did you make of the what we finally heard from him?
Well, we're in a depressing reality right now, and I was sitting down and having conversations with a few of my other teammates about, this conversation that's being had. And I think a lot of what you get is fear of retribution. And I think that's why some people were so reluctant to come out and say anything at first, because they understand how the power structures work, unfortunately. But the most important thing that Coach Swinney says, and what he said, I believe, is sincere. Coach Swinney loves at such a deep level that it's hard for him to sometimes see what everything looks like. But the most important thing is that he takes heed to what is being said and he listens. I mean, when you look at his surrounding cast, some of his most wise counsel are African-American men. It is Woody McCorvey, who's his right-hand man. It's Jeff Davis. It's Todd Bates. It's DeAndre McDaniel. There are coaches and people within his circle and on his staff that can help him understand the conversation that's being had right now. And I think that that's the most important thing. I think that people are screaming and just fighting for acknowledgement. And I think that Coach Swinney knows better than anything what he has with his players. I mean, when you talk about coaches speaking out, I mean, you're entrusted with the development of young men to help them become leaders in their community. And when you talk about really make a difference, the only way to really make a difference is to see that there is a difference. And I think that that's one thing that I've always respected. That's one thing that I've always appreciated about Coach. And it's the main reason that I committed to him and that a lot of young other African-American men committed to him is because, when we looked at Coach Swinney's backstory, it was this guy who came from this situation of poverty, just came from this situation of struggle and found ways to succeed. But I think that he also has to understand that the ascent is different too. And so the fact that, again, that he's willing to sit down and have these conversations with coaches on his staff, with players on his team, tells me that he's really open to understanding and changing.
And Dabo even said, I don't say something, I'll get criticized. I do make a statement, I'll get criticized. And that's certainly what happens. Then his statement gets picked apart word by word, and some people get critical of it. Those are words, and we always talk about, Taj, actions are more important than words. So tell us about his actions when you were there under him, you and other African-American players, and how he was with you, that where you all say, we loved playing for him.
Yeah, he's real, man. And I think that's the big thing. I mean, 85% of the team is African-American. 85% of the team is black. And, sometimes what he said came off a little cloudy. And I think a lot of people resent what he said because of the Kaepernick situation and because of where we're at now. But, again, the only way to understand is through education and through experiences. And, it's tough because, when you talk about education and what that looks like, that takes effort. And some people don't want to make the effort to see and to understand what is happening within our general society, that there is a marginalized group that have been marginalized, that are marginalized, and until a conversation is really had within our community, will continue to be marginalized. And, as a quarterback, playing in the South, there was an expectation of what I had or what I was going to experience that fortunately I necessarily didn't. Now, there's always going to be rummagings, and there's always going to be a few people who don't like the concept or the idea, but you would rather them say that and face that in person. I mean, mean what you say and say what you mean. I think a lot of where we're at right now is the fact that, you got these nameless, faceless people who continue to make these comments and won't speak out on it for what it is. And, once people really open up and say how they feel, then I think that we can have a real conversation about change within the country. But until that point, man, it's hard too. And so sitting down with Coach and knowing that people have been reaching out to him from the team, knowing that people have been texting him, calling him, and he's been welcoming all of this. And that's the thing. He's not disregarding anybody's messages from the team. I know a couple of young black former players who are now pastors who have reached out to him, and he said, you know what, let me take all of this in, let me collect my thoughts, and let me try to make a difference where I'm at now that could hopefully trickle out into the community that we all go into once we finish playing for him. And again, I think that that's something that he does really well. And, it's appreciated within it because, again, the biggest thing that people are screaming for right now is acknowledgement and for there to be change.
Tajh Boyd with us, former Clemson quarterback, played in the NFL and the CFL. And, of course, now the quarterback for Clemson is Trevor Lawrence. And
Yeah.
Trevor Lawrence has been very outspoken and very forthright and very honest from the get-go about his reaction to what he saw in the killing of George Floyd. What do you make of not only what Trevor has said in a very public way, Tajh, but also this generation of players who feel like they have more power maybe than they've ever had in the past to express those opinions?
I mean, I think that Trevor using his platform was huge. Some people say, well, he just said what he said. It doesn't take much courage, but it does. It does. And it always has. I mean, Trevor's from a small town in Georgia. I was born in a small town in Georgia. I mean, my granddad was a sharecropper. My uncle worked on a plantation. And so, for Trevor to come out and being where he's from and speaking out on these things and knowing that, he has to walk into that locker room and be surrounded by these players that want to go play for him and compete for him. He has to have their back.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.